It's going to be another busy day here on the channel. We're getting a little bit of a later start than usual today. Played a round of golf this morning. I'm thinking that we're going to get into Sha'Carri Richardson here in a little bit. I've got a couple of other ideas that we have lined up for today. But first, let's go ahead and get into Jemele Hill and the NCAA. I thought I would never utter the words that are about to come out of my mouth. I never thought in a million years that I would ever say what I am about to say. But here it goes. I actually agree with Jemele Hill. I know it's insanity. A woman who I have never found common ground with. I have actually found common ground. I've actually found something that I agree with Jemele Hill on. I've had several of you guys ask me to get to what's going on with college athletes now being allowed to be paid. I told you I would get to it. I know it took me damn near a week to do it, but I'm a man of my word. We're going to get into it right now. Those of you that requested this video, though, I think we can all agree it has been a wild news cycle this week. So this college story has kind of taken a back seat, but we're going to get into it right now. This story with the NCAA, this proves why politics should stay out of sports. For a year now, I have been saying that politics have no place in sports. And what we're talking about today is a great example of why. I don't agree with Jemele Hill on anything politically. She's a race baiter. I don't see color. She's a socialist. I'm a capitalist. But when it comes to the idea of paying college athletes, Jemele Hill and I are on the same page. This is something that we could actually unite on. This is why it's so important to keep sports pure, keep them clean, keep the disease of politics away. In today's climate, it's more important than ever that we all find things that unite us and not divide us. Last week, the NCAA agreed to allow all student athletes to be compensated on their image and likeness. The acronym is NIL. Name, image, and likeness. Now, this is groundbreaking. And while this is only a temporary solution to the real problem, it's progress nonetheless. The NCAA has been taking advantage of student athletes for decades. Seriously, it is criminal what the NCAA has done to student athletes over the years. The broadcast networks, they're not exempt from this either, even though they really had no control over the matter. But both the NCAA and networks like ESPN, for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, they have made billions of dollars off the sweat equity of young adults, young kids. They've always hidden behind the excuse of, we give these kids a free education. We give these kids hundreds of thousands of dollars in value and free education and room and board. First of all, college is not worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Let's be real here. The college system is the biggest scam in this country. Unless you're going to college for a specialized field, medicine, law, engineering, something like that, unless you're going to school for a specialized field, college is a ripoff for you. And this is coming from someone who graduated from college. I got a business degree. I learned more in my first year of actually working than I learned in the 5.5 years that I was in college. And I didn't get a master's degree, by the way. I got a 4-year degree. I stayed in college for 5.5 years because I loved the lifestyle. I was fortunate enough to have parents who paid for my education. Otherwise, I wouldn't have went to college. If I had to pay for it, I wouldn't have went. The only reason I graduated when I did, my dad actually approached me in my 4th year, and he told me I had a year to graduate or he was cutting me off. I'd have to pay for the school myself, back pay him the previous 4 years. So needless to say, I graduated immediately. Anyway, getting a bit off topic. Free education was never a justification for how underpaid some of these college athletes, all of these college athletes were. Peyton Manning made millions of dollars for the University of Tennessee, and he never received a dime for it, supposedly. What the NCAA did by refusing to pay college athletes, it created a black market. This is why prohibition never works. I'm not a drug user, but I believe that all drugs should be legal. People who use drugs are going to use them anyway, whether they're legal or not. And people who don't use aren't going to use them, whether they're legal or not. The NCAA forced high profile athletes to live in the shadows. They had to hide to be fairly compensated. And when they got caught, the NCAA, they humiliated them. They treated them like criminals. This is the part where me and Jemele Hill actually agree. Her latest column in The Atlantic, she makes the case that Reggie Bush should be given back his Heisman Trophy. The NCAA stole his Heisman from him after the USC scandal back in '06, where he was accused of receiving $300,000 in benefits. And Jemele Hill is absolutely right. Reggie Bush was one of the greatest college football players to ever step on the field. Those USC teams back in '05, '06 with him and Matt Leinart, some of the best in history. Reggie Bush was dominant in college football. And the NCAA ostracized him. They erased his legacy. They treated Reggie Bush like a criminal. They humiliated him. Not only did they steal his Heisman, they vacated wins, vacated national championships. The NCAA ostracized Reggie Bush to the point that USC had to turn their back on him. He wasn't allowed back on campus. They took down his jersey at the LA Coliseum. Just imagine being Reggie Bush. You lead USC to prominence, one of the greatest dynasties in the history of college football. And they erase you from the books. They erase your legacy. Hell, O.J. Simpson was treated better than Reggie Bush. All Reggie Bush did was accept some money, some perks. O.J. Simpson murdered 2 people. The NCAA, they didn't take away his Heisman Trophy. And it wasn't only Reggie Bush that the NCAA has screwed over. They've been screwing over kids for decades. The Fab Five, the most popular college basketball team in history. Most of those kids were living hand to mouth, while Michigan and the NCAA made hundreds of millions of dollars. They sent them overseas to tour Europe. Didn't pay him a dime. They also suspended Terrell Pryor for selling his own stuff, his own merchandise. They suspended him for it. Now, I'm going to be careful with what I say here next. I'm going to be real careful here with what I'm about to say. In my lifetime, the NCAA has been an organization that has profited off of free labor. I've made the case before that the NCAA should be abolished altogether. And even with this progress of players being allowed to profit off of their likeness, I still think the NCAA should be abolished. It serves no purpose. It really does. It serves no purpose. Conferences are their own governing bodies anyway. That was clearly illustrated last year. The SEC played damn near a full schedule in football, while the Big Ten and the Pac-12 played shortened seasons. Now, let's go ahead and get into who's going to benefit from being paid. This is just my opinion, but in my opinion, 85 to 90% of college athletes are still not going to receive a dime. The only athletes that are really going to benefit from this are the top 1%, top 10%, the star players. Zion Williamson, for example, he could have made 7 figures in his one season at Duke. Reggie Bush, he would have made the same back in 2005 and 2006. Most of your college athletes, though, they're just not going to benefit from this. You might have a local star on the lacrosse team at Penn State, get a small endorsement deal at a local car dealership, maybe a baseball star in Starkville, Mississippi. He might land a commercial with a local restaurant, small 5-figure deals like that. But for the most part, just like with most things, the top 10% of college athletes will benefit, and the others, their only benefit will still be scholarships. The big thing about this, though, is the NCAA finally admitting that they were wrong. It's pitiful. It's embarrassing that it took a group of states to pass laws to make this happen. This should have been something the NCAA addressed years ago. All right, what do you guys think? Do you believe college athletes should be paid? Also, who do you think benefits from this arrangement? Do you think all college athletes benefit or just the top percentage? Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. See you guys in a little bit.